Hey BookTube! Welcome back to my channel. My name is the Book Mage, and today I'm wrapping up what I read in June. So I didn't get a whole lot of reading done in June, but then when I kind of look into it, I was at like a 4-day festival which really took 6 days, and then I had like another, I think like 3 music concerts to go to, so just looking at like music attendance alone, I've had a very busy month. So I'm going to talk about a total of 6 things that I read in June. However, only 2 of those are full-length books. 2 more are novellas, 1 more is a short story, and then the other one I actually DNF'd. And it is the fastest I have ever DNF'd anything in my entire life, I think. I'm pretty sure. We'll get on to that. I think the most shocking thing about this month is that I didn't read any high fantasy. Starting off strong though, the first book I picked up in June was Yellowface by Rebecca Kwong. This is a book that I had been anticipating and had been hoping would be good, but it turned out to just be so much more bingeable. I think in the vlog, because there is a vlog up on my channel of me reading this book, I think I described it as kind of like watching like a train wreck or a car crash. Like I had a morbid fascination with just needing to know how low the main character in this book could sink. It was so cringe, so awkward, so just like ugh. So I kind of figure everyone knows what this is about, but just in case you don't, the basic premise of this book is that the main character is called June. She is a not very successful author. You kind of get the impression that she's actually not that great a writer. She is, however, friends with a very successful young Asian author who, and this is not a spoiler, it's in the synopsis, it's in the very first chapter, but while they are out celebrating this Asian author's like next big like Netflix deal, she accidentally dies, and the main character is left briefly in her apartment and has just enough time to steal her current work-in-progress manuscript that nobody else knows that she's working on. You can see where this one's going. Yeah, honestly, what else to say about this? I don't really want to go too much more into it. I would just say, if you like any sort of, if you like any sort of like booktube or like booktalk drama or anything like that, or you just like sort of, I don't know, like online or celebrity drama in general, definitely the book for you. I don't tend to enjoy those things, however I do have a morbid fascination for watching like this kind of a story go down, and go down it did. So I think in the end I gave this a 4 stars. I read this in, well, I started reading it in the evening and then finished it in the morning, so I'm counting that as 2 days, but I flew through this. It is very short. It is just addictive to read in like the worst way. It's not an enjoyable book, but it is just, as I said, morbidly fascinating, so I would highly recommend this one. Definitely not the normal kind of thing that I would read, but I'm really glad that I picked this up because it was just highly entertaining. Yeah, I really liked this one, and I definitely had a really good start to the month. The next book I picked up was a novella, and I was continuing with a series, so that is Rogue Protocol by Martha Wells. This is the 3rd novella, I think, in the Murderbot Diaries series. I still like the first entry the best, but the basic kind of premise of this series is that you are following sort of like a security unit, kind of an android, and it has sort of taken over its own security process in its brain or systems, I guess, which means that it can do things like ignore orders if it chooses to, and instead, for the most part, it just wants to sit in its little pod like watching, I guess, like bad like drama TV shows and things. Murderbot's job, however, is to guard like a team of like scientists researching things on like this distant planet. Its job is to keep these humans alive, which, when things start to go a little bit wrong, means that Murderbot's job gets harder, and just sort of like the deadpan sass and awkwardness that like is in this series is just, I love it so much. It's so entertaining. I love Murderbot. I feel like a lot of kinship with Murderbot because I too would not like to interact with people. I too have anxiety. So yeah, I won't say too much about the plot of this one because obviously it's continuing further into the series. I will say I liked this one less than the first and second entry. I feel like so far this was like, I still gave it a 3 stars, but I still feel like this is kind of like the dip for me. I didn't enjoy this one as much, but it is still an enjoyable series, and I do intend to keep going with it. Mainly because the next thing I read is called The Future of Work, Compulsory, and this is like, it's like 2 pages, it's like a really short story that's published in like an online magazine. Again, it's just another tiny little Murderbot entry, but I read it, so I'm mentioning it here. It's super short, it's like maybe 2 pages, if not just 1 page. I read it, I don't know what to say about it. Ooh, okay, and here's the point. Here's the point where I get to my rant. Basically, at this point, I'm currently sewing a pair of shorts. I'm making a disgusting, like, crust punk inspired kind of pair of shorts, but they're not really crust punk. And my intent had been to just throw on an audiobook, just listen to it while I did some sewing. So the audiobook that I want to listen to was the last book in the Themis files, but it's not available at my library. RIP me. So I just had to like kind of like whack something else on. This is a bad decision. I don't know what possessed me to pick this. It was Octopussy and the Living Daylights. Now, here's the thing. Listen, I don't like James Bond. I'm not into it. I don't care about the movies. I don't think I've even seen all of the new ones. I just find them supremely boring. However, some of my bias may come in. It did mention that this book is narrated by Tom Hiddleston, and I was like, okay, I could throw that on in the background and sew a pair of shorts to that. I'll head over to Amazon, put in the ISBN, and like listen to the preview, see what it's about, see if I like it, and then I can like continue with the audiobook. I literally didn't even make it 30 seconds into this audiobook. First of all, I will say, the voice, the accent this man is doing at the start of this book, really, literally the first word in this book, I was like, this is some like intense ASMR, I have to turn this down. But that wasn't the point where I dipped out. The point where I dipped out, it was just completely unexpected. Like, it was maybe like 20 to 30 seconds into this book, probably like the third line of the book, and I really wasn't expecting it. It just drops the N-word, hard R, out of nowhere, and I was like, I really wasn't expecting this. It really took me by surprise. I'm gonna say, like, before I get into this, I totally understand some historic books and things, or like language and opinions of the past, but usually, like, whenever I see anything like that, it's clearly marked that, like, that's what it is. So I just was not expecting it. And the thing is, the context that this word is said in does not make any sense, in that I didn't know what they were referring to. It turns out people in the past are so racist that this word is also somehow slang for a rock or a boulder. So the only reason I know that is because when I googled it thinking there's no way that this is what he says, and I looked up like a print version of the book, and the ebook has none of those words in it. It does not use any racial slurs, because like every modern version of this book has had like the old racist language taken out. This was recorded in 2013. Could you not have just recorded like a modern version without the slurs? I didn't expect to hear Marvel/Disney actor for children coming out with a hard R less than 30 seconds into this book. Really did not expect it. And also, I just don't understand why you're like maintaining that archaic phrasing, because even I didn't know what it meant. I had no idea that in that context I was supposed to know that they were referring to a stone on a beach. How was I supposed to know that? Because all the modern versions have updated the language to make sense to somebody now. I have no idea why that is like, oh yeah, we're gonna get like this A-lister to read this book and we're gonna go with this version. No. So I did not check that out from my library. I will not be reading that book. I will never read anything by from Ian Fleming. I will never read any James Bond books. I do not need racist, like, how it's just the level of how casually racist people were in the past. It's a no. It's a no from me. This is the fastest I've ever DNF'd a book. I know for a fact that Amazon know about this, because if you go on the print version of the book in English and then click on the audiobook, it takes you to like a Dutch version or something. It takes you to a non-English language version of the audiobook. You have to go onto Google or type in the exact ISBN of the one narrated by Tom Hiddleston to actually get the preview audio of that, because the hard R is right there in the preview audio. Just wasn't expecting it on like, what was it, like a Sunday afternoon? Not how I planned spending my audiobook time. So it turns out I didn't find an audiobook. I ended up giving up on that and just going on to my next book, which was Exit Strategy, also by Martha Wells, continuing further into the Murderbot series. So safe to say, I did not intend to continue this series so soon, or to read just so much Murderbot this month, but I guess June was just the month of Murderbot, which, I mean, there are worse months. And this is the last novella before the series goes into like a full-sized novel, and then I think goes back to novellas. I basically can't say anything about this without spoilers. They are really short as well, like I couldn't even give a plot synopsis, but again, following Murderbot, I think I gave this one a 3 stars as well, but I happen to like it more than the last one. I think this was getting more back onto like a main like plot thread rather than sort of meandering a bit too much either way. I am still enjoying this series, and I guess I must be because I've continued quite a lot of it, so not sure what else to say on this one. I am gonna have to find like something else to fill that like little sassy, snarky little novella kind of place when I want something like this because I have blitzed through a couple quite quickly. So if you have any suggestions, let me know. And then there were quite a few books that I had intended to start in June and just didn't get to for one reason or another. I just kind of needed like a little nothing book to just sort of half brain read and like not have to vlog about it or like review it or anything like that. So I very randomly ended up starting the Dresden Files series by Jim Butcher. So I picked up Stormfront and I don't have a copy on hand. The kind of basic premise of this series is that you follow Harry Dresden, who is kind of like he's a wizard for hire. It's set in like modern day America, but I think this was written in like the really early 2000s, so it's kind of like retro modern America. And Dresden is not like a very well respected wizard. He does not get a whole lot of work. He does kind of help out the police department, and he has like some friends, or like one friend, on like the police force investigation people, I don't know what you call them. And like right at the start of this, there's like some series of like weird, potentially magical grisly murders that are going on that he's sort of beginning to investigate, and he's looking into like a few different things, all with like potential magical aspects to it. And I don't really know what else to say. I feel like this is a really well-known series, and I didn't intend to like pick this up or start a new series. It was just kind of there, and I thought I'm gonna give it a go, and I'm not mad that I did. I ended up giving this like, I think like a straight 3 stars. It's a little bit dated, but it is entertaining. I kind of like the sort of like dry, kind of like self-deprecating, witty tone that the book is told in. I'm not a massive fan of first person, but I feel like it does work for this series, so I am going to continue this series. I don't know when. It's just kind of like as and when I pick it up. It's very low priority, but I did manage to get through this pretty quick, and I feel like this series is going to go one of two ways. It's either going to be something that I end up getting like tired of and just sort of not picking up very often or not reaching for, or it could be that it gets much bigger in scope, or I end up just sort of like really getting into it, really liking it. I'm hoping I like might really get attached to the characters, given that I think this series goes on for quite a bit. So I'm not like judging it too harshly yet, because this is the first book in the series. This is like the first entry, so I feel like it has like a lot of room to grow. I know quite a lot of people really like this series, so maybe I will also be one of those people eventually. There is a little talking skull in it. If I remember correctly, his name is Bob, and I feel like I have a Bob. So yeah, these are the books that I read this month, plus Stormfront, which I don't have to hand, but like, just pretend I have another book. So I don't feel like I did too bad in terms of reading. I mean, I had like 3 3-stars, a 4-star, and a DNF. I feel like that balances out. It does mean that I have a lot to get on with in July, which currently I am on top of. If you did make it this far in the video, leave me like a little robot murderbot emoji. I know Murderbot is not actually a robot, they're more like an android, but do let me know in the comments if you have read any of these books, and like let me know if you have any of the same opinions as me. Otherwise, that's been it from me, and hopefully I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye!